is your family business doing to prepare the next generation for leadership? While some leave this to chance and often suffer the consequences, smart family businesses create formal programs like at Vitamix Corporation, the multinational family business that's over 100 years old. Today, we're talking with Dr. Aimee Wrubel about Vitamix's formal rotation program. Aimee is the Leadership Development Associate at her family business, Vitamix Corporation. She's also the chair of their family council and serves as the director of the Vitamix Foundation. Thanks for being with me, Aimee.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be back with you today.
So, what did your family business do to create a formal rotation program for the next, which is the fifth generation?
Yeah, it's a great question. And it's fairly new. I am our first participant in this program. I like to say I'm the guinea pig for this. And it's been great so far. Like you said, Vitamix has been around for over 100 years. And up until this point, we didn't really have a need for this program. The next leader was usually just kind of picked around the dinner table. Everyone was, by the time you hit fifth generation, that doesn't really happen anymore. And so it wasn't really obvious who was sort of waiting in the wings to be the next leader. And we hit a point where in our fifth generation, we had three family members working in the business in the fifth generation. Only two of us are actually interested in any sort of leadership position. And there's still a pretty big readiness gap for myself and my cousin, who are the ones interested in leadership. So we're not department heads right now. We don't have a background in business. So we know that we're interested, but we're not quite ready. So we had to create a program of how do we get ready? And when I say we, I'm speaking for the family and the business as a whole, not us personally. This really was a top-down approach. So this started at the board level. The need was recognized, and so the board really was pushing for this program to be developed. And we also developed it with the help of our own internal human resources department with the approval of the board. So it's been really exciting so far, and I'm the first one going through the rotational program.
So, as you mentioned, you're currently participating in the program. What are some of the benefits you've seen?
Yeah, there's so many benefits. I love having the opportunity to peek behind the curtain and see how every department functions, how it works. More importantly, how the departments work together and how everything, how the sausage is made. So it's really nice to get my hands dirty and be able to actually do some real work in these departments and get to know the people behind the processes. I have loved getting to know everybody from each individual department. We have hundreds of employees. And so I haven't previously had the opportunity to get to know each one on a deeper basis. And that has been one of my favorite takeaways of this is just the networking internally with all of our people that creates such a wonderful culture that we have at Vitamix. And getting more immersed in that has been very rewarding personally for me.
What do you think took Vitamix so long to create the programs? Were there any obstacles behind creating it?
Yeah, so it's a good question. I mean, we didn't necessarily need a program like this until now. So we built it when we needed it. And I'm glad that we actually had a program that was already in place for employees that we kind of used as a framework. So we have what's called a pathways program where somebody from one department who might be interested in learning about a different department can do almost an internship there, a temporary work rotation where they get real work assignments. They're actually working in that department for 6 weeks or maybe a different length of time. And then they go back to their other job. But then they know, hey, if a job opening happens in that other department, I have experience there. I've tried it. I know that I'm interested. And it's a really great way to kind of get their feet wet. So we built upon what already existed to tailor it towards what our needs were. So it was pretty seamless as far as that goes. But one of the challenges is I want to do the program. My cousin wants to do the program. We have totally separate backgrounds and strengths, and we've worked in different parts of the business. So, for example, I worked with our culinary team for 3 years. So I didn't necessarily need a rotation through the culinary department because I could have taught that rotation. I didn't have that rotation, but my cousin will go through that. And, likewise, there's channel marketing where she's working currently that I did a rotation through. She taught me, everything that she knows as I was going through the rotation in her department. So obviously she doesn't need to repeat that. So it's great to have a solid foundation that everybody can benefit from, but you still need to tailor it to whoever's going through the program at that time.
So now that you're in the program, and like you said, you're the guinea pig, Is there anything you would change to make it even better for, the next cohort?
Yeah, I think that's a really great question to ask as you're going through the program. You want to make sure that you're getting the most out of it, and that the person who's coming after you will also get the most out of it for future generations. So we actually did just make a change to the program, even though I'm about halfway through this 2.5 year program. We decided, really, it was our chair of the board, but he really wanted to have more of a focus on board leadership also. So instead of just being in the management room, if you are familiar with Bannion's rooms model, not just the management room, but the management room and the boardroom, to have that more broad preparedness for future leadership roles. And so now we have that additional focus and those conversations around not only how to be a good leader and a good manager, but how does that contribute to being a good board member as well.
Will there be anything about being competent owners? Anything about that too? Or you cover that in another area?
We could probably cover all of the rooms in the house, but we are trying to stay tailored towards creating actual leaders within the business. It is a good question about the shareholders and the owners. I think that lives a little bit more in our family council, where we do a lot of education for the full family ownership group. And we're actually revamping our entire education process right now. Perhaps that's something that we have another interview on, we talk more on later. But, I said the program is 2.5 years. That's how we've developed it. I am working part-time. So if you know somebody who's trying to create a program, it might be longer than that. It might be shorter than that, depending on their time availability. I have found that our rotations are between 1 and 3 months in each department. And the ones that I had spent less time in, I was yearning for more time. It felt like I could just use a little bit more time, but it's not exactly feasible to be able to spend, 6 months in a dozen different departments. Like, you need to actually be able to have a real job at the end of it and actually start contributing back to the business at some point. So there can be some challenges, time wise, but that's been one of my hurdles. And what I'm telling myself is, the departments that I was yearning to spend more time in, those are the ones that I want to work in after the rotational program is done.
Can you give us like one example of what a typical rotation looked like for you? Like, what did you do for someone like looking to put this together?
I'll give kind of two examples. So my very first rotation, I started off in our household customer care center, so our customer service. I spent time training, just like any other person that was new to the department would train on how to use the software that we use and the background knowledge that we need on the history, the machines and things like that. And so then what I did was I was trained to answer phone calls. So I would answer phone calls from our customers that were having challenges with their machine, or they were looking for help in purchasing what machine might be best for them. That was a really great starting point because it didn't take a lot of training to be able to get to the point where you can jump in and actually do work. But then I think it's really important to also be able to get experiences where you can't contribute. So I'm not an engineer. I can't go into our engineering department and start fiddling around with things because I don't know how that works. But I am able to have conversations and sit in the meetings where the engineers are talking and discussing challenges and how they go about solving that. So there's a shadowing aspect to it, and there's also a hands-on aspect. Right now, I'm doing a rotation in our supply chain. And so we are working with all of our suppliers, and we have a lot of local suppliers. And so I've been going on field trips to these suppliers where we can see, how are the boxes made that our machines go in? How about our printing supplies who print cookbooks and inserts for us? And it's been a really wonderful experience to see and meet these people that we have relationships with who help build parts of our products. Like, I went to our blade manufacturer, and that was really enlightening to see how all of that comes together and the quality assurances that we have, because they are helping to make part of our product that we put our name on. And so it's really important that we have these good relationships and that we, know everybody who is putting their hands on something that we're proudly putting our name on at the end of the day.
What an amazing learning opportunity. And I didn't even really think about this. All these opportunities to meet people you probably wouldn't have that opportunity to meet.
Absolutely. And I'm so grateful for that. I've heard all the names of our suppliers for so long and all these vendors, but I've never had the opportunity to actually visit their locations or shake hands with the people who we've been working with for so long.
Last question. For other family businesses looking to create something similar, what do you advise?
I think that if you're looking down the timeline of succession planning and you are seeing that there is a need for education in your family members, definitely look into creating a program where You get experience in each of the key departments. I think that having a balance of shadowing opportunities and also opportunities to get your hands dirty and experience what it's like to work in that department gives you a real in-depth appreciation of how all those departments work and come together. So when you're making decisions later, you can say, hey, I was answering phones. I know how frustrating it is when you have, four people waiting in line for you, or I can see how adaptation of AI in this experience would be beneficial because I sat in those seats doing that job. So I think it really is helpful to have that breadth of experience so that you can make those key decisions in the future.
Thank you so much. This was incredibly insightful. I so much appreciate your time and everything you do. I'm Kim Edelson with FamilyBusiness.org, and I was talking to Dr. Aimee Wrubel of the Vitamix Corporation. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Bye bye.